because now it's time for rates and adjustments. So this item is actually coming directly to the board. We let the board know some background on this in the Finance Committee, but it didn't go through the Finance Committee. We're bringing it to the board because of the urgency to get it rolling. So with that, Daisy will give you all the details.
Good morning, Daisy.
Good morning. Good morning, board members and staff. Thank you for the introduction. So during the development of the fiscal year 25-26 budget, staff determined that existing rates are not sufficient to recover the full cost of providing water and wastewater services to our retail customers. Therefore, cost of service studies along with financial plans are needed to develop proposed customer rates and for each service area. The new cost of service and associated financial plans will evaluate existing rates and charges in detail, consider current and projected operational needs, the cost of future capital improvements, evaluate reserve balances, and develop proposed rates that comply with legal statutes. Staff is issued a request for proposals and received two. The proposal evaluation team determined FG Solutions is the most qualified firm based on qualifications and experience, proposed staffing, work plan methodology, and cost. The request today is authorization for the general manager to execute a contract and issue a purchase order with FG Solutions in the amount of $135,598. And we have joining us via Zoom our two consultants from FG Solutions, Debbie Fortin and Art Griffith. They, along with staff, are available to answer any questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from board members?
Yes, I do.
Director Denstedt.
My question is obviously for the consultants. I just want to know if we're going to be on time and on budget.
Good morning, Director Denstad. This is Debbie Fortin. I'm the CEO of FG Solutions, and thank you for your question. When developing our response to the RFP, Art and I were very thoughtful in how we would approach the project, both in a schedule and budget point of view. And I feel that we developed a very thoughtful and thorough number as to how we would get there. And yes, I'm very confident that we will be able to complete this project on schedule and under budget. Thank you.
Perfect. That's exactly what I like to hear because this is a significant stressor for staff to get done and it's crunch time for us. So I want to make sure that we're able to deliver on that. So with that, Mr. President, I have no other questions and I will go ahead and move approval of the item.
Okay.
I will second.
Did you have any questions or
No, I'm
comments?
good, thank you.
All right. We are ready then for a roll call vote when the system is ready.
Director Denstedt,
Aye.
Director Rizvi,
Aye.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 3-0.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brings us to reports. Mr. General Counsel.
Yes, Mr. President and members of the board, members of the public, some of you may have noticed that Director Torres has been absent from the last few board meetings. She indicated to me that she's been on leave for personal reasons. She just wanted the public to know that. And she also indicated that she is still checking constituent emails and that constituents are still free to contact her if they need anything. So I just wanted to provide that explanation to the board and to the public.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. General Manager.
Okay, I'll manage expectations here. You're going to hear a lot from me from this point forward in the board meeting because we do have I do have my normal updates, and then we are going to go through the district's accomplishments for last year. So bear with me, get comfortable, get a cup of coffee, try and stay awake if it's good stuff. As far as my report, so I don't know that I'm nervous today, but SB 366 is in front of the Appropriations Committee at the Assembly today. It'll be put on the suspense calendar, which they do for all bills that have a cost over a certain threshold. We actually don't know what the threshold is, which is interesting. But I looked through the list last night, and I mean, it's like hundreds of bills are on suspense. Will be put on suspense. Next week will be the big week where things, hopefully it gets pulled off suspense and gets moved forward to the floor and approved. Good news is that, I hear that it's unusual, but Senator Caballero is going to present the bill today. Normally, there is no testimony or presentations when it's going to go on to the suspense calendar, but I think it's an important indicator that she's really prioritized this bill, and she's going to make her justifications for why this bill needs to be moved forward, and also she's probably going to push back a little on the costs of the bill that the State Water Resources Control Board placed on it, which was $4 million a year every year, which we didn't, there's nothing in the bill that asks the state board to do anything for the bill. So she's going to fight back on that one. So that's happening right now. It's actually, I think that meeting started at 9:30.
Hopefully you're getting real-time live updates.
I'm not. I don't want those. I'll get nervous. I'll take it at the end of the day because, yeah, Michael's got his earbuds in over there. If he, yeah,
Great.
if Michael jumps up or falls over, we'll know what happened.
Runs out of the room,
Yeah,
okay,
got
great.
two different things. Yeah. Let's see. I've got quite a few updates today. The Joint Agency Water Resiliency Group, also known as the Regional Water Alliance, met just after the last board meeting. So this is the group of Western and Eastern and Rancho and Elsinore, trying to look big picture and long off into the future. Do we need to be looking for our own water supplies in addition to what we get from Metropolitan? So we've been meeting for quite a while. The push was, let's look at ocean desal in the Camp Pendleton area. We've been kind of waiting for this meeting. We wanted the consultants to finish some of their cost estimates, very, very preliminary cost estimates. But the general managers all felt very strongly that, we needed to run those cost estimates quickly because it was going to show that it's very expensive. And no doubt, the numbers came back that ocean desal to build and deliver water to Western, Eastern Rancho, and Elsinore is going to be on the order of $13 billion. With a B.
Yes.
With a B. And that calculates out to about $8,600 an acre foot. Remember, we're paying $1,200 an acre foot for Metwater, so it's substantially more. The conveyance cost alone, just getting it from the desal plant on the coast here, is about $5,400 an acre foot. So that greatly exceeds what we hear numbers for pure water even. So anyway, the committee expressed their appreciation for the hard work. It kind of sets I guess a sidebar, some parameters on how expensive we would look at, and so I think it was a really good step to get those numbers. In addition to that, we're looking at stormwater capture as another alternative, and also more programs like SARCUP, where you'd take wet year water, put it in groundwater storage for dry year. So those two options we'll continue to work on. But desal, we kind of parked that option. What we are also asked by the committee was we need to put something on our websites to show the public, because I think the board members hear a lot about, I don't know why we just don't desal. And so we need to put the educational information on all of our websites that we've looked at it. It's really expensive. There's a lot better options, just so that's out there for the public to see that we've actually looked at it, investigated it, and kind of put that to rest at this time. So I think that's, the group's going to continue to meet and continue to follow through on some of those other items. They're long-term items. We don't expect, anything to come fast out of that, but it does kind of keep our eye on the ball for really long-term options. And it's all done in collaboration with Metropolitan. How do we take future water from Metropolitan, or do we do it with our own local supply? It's, our constant decision that we're always working on. So that's the Regional Water Alliance update. Let's go for a little brief Met update. The treated water recovery workshop's going. I attended the last one. Kevin and Ryan have both been attending. Still doing a lot of background work in those presentations, so it hasn't really got to solutions yet. It's getting closer to proposing solutions. They really talked a lot about what was brought forward to the board in 2017 from the 2016 work. We kind of went all through this in 2016, so they talked all about that and what was brought to the board, and it didn't pass the board. So I think the conversation is, do we want to do something different? We want to bring this back. What are we going to do? So that's kind of where the discussion is right now. The other thing that happened, we had another Camp for Water task force meeting up at Met. I was up there. We talked about signposts and other things about indicators of more significant climate change and triggers to start projects. But probably the bigger discussion was on the business model, because now Met's business model has been rolled into this climate adaptation master plan. I kind of thought that was a big enough assignment all by itself, but now to take on, well, does Met have the right business model, is a lot of work. What's kind of come out of that working with the interim GM, Devin Upadhyay, is rather than letting the task force work through what the business plan is, what we want it to be, how to change it in this larger forum of this task force, setting up a smaller group of member agency managers to go in and evaluate what is the current business plan and what are some options to, well, first they'll decide, do we even want to modify it? And then if we do want to modify it, what are some modifications that the general managers would propose, and the proposal would be back to the task force. So as you can imagine, the general managers like to get things done. So we had a member agency roundtable meeting on the 29th, and they appointed 4 people to put together a 2-day workshop. I was one of the 4 people that got tasked with putting that together with Harvey De La Torre, Stacy Takaguchi, and Dave Peterson. So we're busily working on a visioning workshop, and it'll be a 2-day effort, 2 separate days. So we're working on that really quickly. The interesting Met board leadership gave kind of direction to the member agency managers to come together and work on this, and oh, by the way, get it done by November. Well, we've been arguing about these things for 2 decades. There's no chance we'll get it done in November, so we've got to figure out how to repackage those expectations. We do need time to work on this. It's very, very important. And you're dealing with all the member agencies, so we're going to have to find middle ground on everything that we do. So it's going to be a lot of work. Let's see, next item, recruitment. HR has been just absolutely knocking it out of the park. We have retirements that we've been filling spots in, so we have two recent retirements. We've filled both of those spots already. We've had 5 new employees start. Bianca, where's Bianca? She's somewhere. Bianca's been, it's right, she's able to sit up. There have been so many interview panels, and our process is long, and it's really hard to get it coordinated, and people here and panelists here. We really go through 3 levels of interviews with every candidate that comes into the office. And so it's been a huge lift. And remember, the board allowed us to add more headcount in the budget. And so we're blending in, these new employees, filling vacancies with retirements, with also growing our workforce. And it's just been a huge effort by staff to get there. And HR's done a great job. We had another EMT leadership.
Can I
What?
back you up?
Yeah.
Back up just one little step. So this 3 interview process, that really speaks to a shift that we've now made in our culture and how we're integrating people into our workforce to make sure that it's not just a good fit or they're not just applying for a job, that they're within the organization. You want
Yeah.
to embellish a little bit more?
Well, I'm talking a lot today, so I won't embellish too much. But actually, I'll go way back. When I first started here at Western, we did an employee survey, and we got responses back like, we don't think the hiring practices are fair because we've seen people's friends get hired here at Western rather than qualified internal candidates. That's just throwing it out there. And man, we took that to heart. And we said, that is not true. And we're now going to make a process that absolutely eliminates the thought of that happening. And so our process is extensive. We interview with external panel members, so we bring people in from the outside to interview candidates. Obviously, HR does a really good job of collecting resumes and weeding it down to qualified candidates. And then we throw it to outside people. And the hiring manager is not in the initial panels, so that hiring manager can't pick friends. I would also say that, how do you define friends? You know, I have a lot of friends in the water world, and there are certainly people that I would love to bring to Western to be great employees, and we have done that. I have done that. That doesn't mean there's some sort of corruption going on. It means that we're trying to get the best workforce we can possibly get here. And so there absolutely have been employees here that have come to Western and said, Western's a great place, and they reached back into their prior organization and said, hey, you ought to apply. Here's a great job that you would be good at. That's not some, bad practice. That is what you call hand selecting really good people to build the workforce. They still go through the whole interview process. The last step that I don't know that a lot of agencies do is every single new hire and promotion interviews with me and Tim Barr. And that's a culture fit. That's for us to really hear and ask questions about how that person's going to fit with the personalities in the organization, make sure they're here for the right reasons. We get to talk about our expectations of all the employees when they come on board. And so that's kind of the cultural tie that I think Director's referring to. We put a huge amount
And we
in
do
that.
the whole hardwired thing.
Everybody gets the hardwired assessment, and our management candidates also go through a leadership assessment, an independent leadership assessment. They get a score, and then we take that into account too in the hiring. So there's a lot of independence that's going on here. Okay, back to another leadership retreat with our EMT on the 19th, which is great. We meet about 3 times a year off-site, and it's where we develop these interview processes and talk about leadership issues. And we actually at this one we spent a lot of time talking about what are the characteristics of the ideal Western teammate. And so we developed 12. I think we developed 12 leadership characteristics that we're going to look for in our interview process. So a lot goes into that, and we're also starting to prepare for our next visioning efforts, which are going to happen in the next year to develop our next 10-year aspiration plan and our next 3-year strategic plan. A little ahead of the game on that one still. All right, who wants to hear some good news? More good news? Tim does? Kevin does? We heard last night that from the OLDCC, you all know what that is, obviously, the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation. We just received word that we've been asked to, trying to read here, it's the oddest wording. We've been asked to submit an application. We've already applied, the board already approved our application, but this is their little way of saying that you've won your money. And so now you have to apply for your money. This is a $13 million grant to rebuild the force main that goes under the freeway and under the railroad from the base that we had to abandon. Very, very expensive project, $18 million project. So great news. We applied several times to get this. So this is a little, doggedness getting it. Certainly the staff, the engineering staff, the grants team, finance staff, CCX for helping us package it and get there. And don't want to forget the Ferguson Group. Mark has been very instrumental in making sure that this is written exactly the right way and getting it in front of the right people and lobbying to get it done. So great news on that one. But one little step, we got to apply, but I think that the way they do this is they kind of commit the money to you, and then you have to formally ask for the money back. So federal process. Last update before I do the presentation is I am going to Toronto next week to speak at the World Water Congress. It'll be a joint presentation with Metropolitan, Heather Dyer from San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, and a representative from the Central Valley Ag. He represents the San Joaquin Blueprint. So we're going to talk all about SB 366. The panel is all about California water. How do we make it a success story? How do we change water? Stop fighting about water, start developing solutions. The theme is shaping our water future. So looking forward to it. Presentations all packaged. Sarah did a great job with Micah putting the whole thing together for the panel. We do the heavy lifting. The panel comes in and they're like the stars of the show, but we put together all the content. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been to this before. We haven't done international things, so I talked to President Gardner to get permission to do this some time ago when we put our application in but there's going to be something like 10,000 people at it. They do it every 2 years, moves all around the world. This year's theme is shaping our water future for the panel. So really looking forward to that next Wednesday. With that, any questions on those updates before I get to our accomplishments? No? Okay. All right, so this is, so the board, I presented these accomplishments to the board kind of in a context in my review. We did this exact and I've changed this presentation a little bit for public consumption. We did this presentation to all hands last week, so we went through this. But I wanted to put it out in the public so that the public can see what we're doing. Because doing it in closed session as part of my review doesn't really inform the public of how hard we work here at Western and what we've accomplished with the leadership of the board. So let's go. Are you going to flip for me? All right. So a lot of slides. Bear with me. We've done a lot. So a year of impact. The board all knows that we embarked on this a couple of years ago, that we needed to change the conversation in water in California away from conservation is the answer for our water future to we have to do everything. And conservation is an important tool, and you know as board members that we've led the way in conservation in our area, and our customers have cut their water consumption in half in the last 11 years. So when we say conservation is the answer, we already adapted to that 10 years ago. So, more conservation is not cheap and easy, nor does it generate a whole lot of water. An important tool, but we need to get out and build infrastructure. So, we feel like we've really pushed the envelope in leading that message across the state and on the federal side with those issues. Another highlight is team engagement. And I think I've kind of already talked about it with the EMT and our interview process and things like that. But, we train and grow our staff. And I think that's really important for maintaining the best staff. And so we're very dedicated to continuing to develop our staff. Maximize our efforts to increase service reliability and resilience. That plays out in all these projects that we're building, the La Sierra Pipeline, Sterling Pump Station, all the agreements that we're approving to park water in different groundwater basins. We've through really hard efforts, and the board's seen all these agreements, we've parked over 8,000 acre feet of water all across our area for when we really need it. We've really increased our communications platform, new website. We try and get out at every event we can get to and be leaders at those events and being up on the panel, not just there, networking. We want to be up there talking. Historical capital improvement projects, our CIP program is humming right along. It's been growing. The finance team has figured out ways to finance that. Tim and his team has done a great job of prioritizing those projects. And then our ops team gets stuck with, okay, flip the on switch and now let's make it work. And that's actually a really heavy lift, and Paul and his team and Chris Fike sitting there do an outstanding job trying to figure out, okay, it looked good on paper, how does it actually work in the field? And how do we turn it and, handle all the water quality, the pressure issues, the flow issues, and all that. So it's a big project, big effort to do that. And then another successful budget year, the board gives us the money to do all these things that we do and the leadership to do all these things. So really appreciate that. And I really do appreciate the board allowing us to increase the head count because our staff has been just working at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we can't do that all the time. So it's worked for us the last couple of years, but we need some more horsepower to help us out. Next slide. All right, regional leadership, next slide. So you've heard it all, talked more about it, SB 366. This is trying to change the way the state plans for water. To develop SB 366, we formed the Water Solutions Summit Group, which was 24 general managers from across the state, business entities, associations, parked ourselves 5 different times to really sit down and think about what we can do to change water. And we actually did a SWOT analysis on what has not worked over the last 50 years in water to build more infrastructure and what has worked. And we think we found a path with SB 366 to do that. Over 200 supporters. We still lead the effort. We have a weekly call, California Water for All, planning all these things. It is not an easy program. Right now, we have so much writing on the bill, and it's in the lobbyist hands of all of our supporters. They're doing a great job in the hallways back in Sacramento right now. Don't want to say too much about that because lobbyists do what lobbyists do. And we've got great lobbyists, and they're doing a great job. We didn't just stop at the bill. We thought, boy, we need some data to really support what we're doing. So we commissioned 3 UCs to develop a needs assessment for water. They came back at 9 million acre feet is how much water we're going to lose because of climate change coming up. And so that information turned out to be invaluable because the Water Parks and Wildlife Committee said, well, you're asking for a target of 10 million. We read your study and we just think it should be 9 million like your study said. Okay, that's great. It's a target. 9 million, 10 million, doesn't matter to me. It just shows that we need a lot of water. And the fact that they put credibility in the effort to the effort to research that. And, that was just a really good idea that came out of our Water Solutions Summit. And Irvine Ranch Water District really took a leadership role, and they said, we'll fund that research as our contribution to the effort.
Is this research on our website or somewhere where it has access to the public, where there is something that we can share with the
Sarah?
public?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question, Director. So from our website on our homepage, we do have a direct link to the California Water for All program. And right on that, once you click that link, right on that homepage, you can access that research.
Perfect. Perfect, great.
The second phase of that research that we commissioned is what's going to be the cost of inactivity. So if we don't do this, how much is it going to cost the state? We've had a hard time getting that over the goal line. One thing that you don't think about a lot when you do these things is when you ask academics to do this and summer break comes up, you fall victim to a lot of travel. And so we're working on that. We're hoping to get that document finalized. But anyway, I was very fortunate to be asked to testify at Assembly Water Parks and Wildlife. And boy, it's taken a lot of work to get this bill across the finish line. I've had more than 60 supporter meetings that I've kind of done on my own. Next slide. Let's go to more regional stuff. So you talk statewide, I guess that includes Aqua panel. We've had myself and other staff members that get invited to be on Aqua panels, which is great to have that statewide forum. I've spent a lot of time in Northern California recruiting agencies to come on board with California Water for All. So I've made a lot of new friends across the state. That's been really fun. And what a surprise. People in Northern California and ag and Bay Area people are all saying the same thing. We have to be smarter about planning for water infrastructure. This isn't a Northern California versus Southern California or ag versus urban. They want all the same things that we want. We have to have a future for water that we can count on. I've been able to do numerous podcasts, AquaSite, Southern California Water Coalition, and CMUA. Our staff is serving on multiple boards. I've been fortunate to be named as the president of CMUA. That's great to have a voice. Western has a voice. And then our participation at MET is amazing. We probably have 6, 7 people following all the different committees and issues at Metropolitan. I always look at it as kind of like our extracurricular homework that we do beyond everything we do for Western, but it's so important to our community to be protected and for us to speak for our community because we, as Director Denstad knows, we're a small voting block with huge growth that's happening, and we have to defend what's right for all of our residents that live in Riverside County. And so, we partner really well with Eastern on these issues. We've kind of changed our Orange County IE caucus. So this is where we come together and kind of plan strategy with our board members. And so we kind of changed that caucus earlier this year where we started thinking about we have to be together on policy discussions because if we can hold Orange County, IUA, Western, and Eastern together, we start having a voting block at MET that's influential. And so this is really important, and we've made huge ground, I think, in keeping our caucus together and having a great voice up at Metropolitan, and we'll continue that work. At the community level, staff has done a great job at all of our community meetings, Woodcrest Mac, Raglan, Mission Grove, and other things. Huge support with the chamber. We're very involved with both chambers, our chamber here in Riverside, our chambers out in the Murrieta-Temecula area. Participated in Leadership Riverside. We speak to the Leadership Riverside class. We're very active with the Economic Development Group at Leadership Riverside. I've spoken with their executive committee at the chamber several times. So we would really like to be plugged in. And that picture was the event that we held out in Eastvale, where we were talking about water supply with our elected leaders. Next slide. The other thing, we've tried to build community leadership. So we graduated our second class of Western Leader cohorts. So you presented them with their coins at the last board meeting. Next slide. All right, so now let's talk more about the accomplishments that the staff's doing. And I've packaged these based on our strategic priorities of superior service, resource management, financial stewardship, and elite workforce. Next slide. Go, one more. So Murrieta Water Quality, I was able to share the good news that our last week we got our permit to actually operate that water quality treatment plant. Here's our guys bolting it together. We built that whole thing. It was really, really great to see. I went out there, saw the trenches dug, saw them welding pipes together, fabricating everything. They just did an outstanding job, and we're up and operating. So that is great. But I think what's important is the first bullet on there is the standards and the philosophy of water quality. Out in Murrieta, we inherited an old water quality system with wells that were really degrading. A few of them still work. A lot of them had to be taken offline. What happens when a well degrades? The screen collapses, which keeps the sand out of the water system. When that screen collapses, things start getting sucked into the water system and shot through, and it's usually sands and silts and things like that. They're not harmful. It's not a health effect, but it can show up as, a cloud in your water. And, there was kind of this philosophy that it's okay, it's not, we meet all the water quality standards, all the health requirements, we're okay. And we sat down as a leadership team and we said, no, we're not. If I don't want that water, I want my water to be pure as pure and no clouds. And so, last year we made a big change and we said, no, we are going to put water quality enhancement on the north well. We are going to scrub those pipes like crazy to try and get that residual materials out of the pipe. That Chris could give us a 5-hour lecture on how that is working, not working. It's really hard to get this legacy stuff out of the pipelines. And we've tried several different cleaning methods, and we will keep up. We just finished the 12, we divided up into 12 different zones, and we got those all done. And now annually, we're going to go back and redo them. And the water quality keeps getting better and better and better. And the treatment plant that we've put on the well will keep any of that residual from coming out of the ground and keep that water quality good and help protect our pipes. Next slide. But the important thing to me there is the philosophy that our standards cannot be too high. We are going to go after the greatest water quality that we can have. This is our favorite picture ever, the rainbow over RCRA. This is Director Rizvi created a rainbow when she became the chair of RCRA Commission. But that is a picture of our odor transfer system. So we constructed 700 feet of air ducting to actually move treated air that comes out of the solids handling facility all the way across the plant, discharging it at a higher elevation to get it away from the neighbors that had moved in, that development that moved in. So this is up and operating. The other thing that our staff has been phenomenal about is cost savings and their own initiatives to optimize the digester gases that we use and getting off of natural gas, which is really expensive, and using our gases that were created on site and changing the way we operate to lessen our needs for chemicals. We're probably saving about $500,000 a year in the last year over what we had done in the past. So that's just our team just really looking at the processes and deciding to make improvements.
And that's really a savings moving forward too, for every year.
We will continue to do that, and I'll guess that they're going to find more. And so we're really happy about it. And energy is going to be a big one. We're going to continue to look at ways to optimize energy because that's a big cost. And we have opportunities. We have solar out there already, but we're really looking. We've experimented with some batteries, and we're looking to do more of that. And the other thing our staff did is they brought out a new consultant to relook at our old solar. And they said, I'm not sure we're getting the most efficient use of our solar panels. Let's bring in a third party to critique what the maintenance crew of our contractual commitment is. And sure enough, they made improvements. And so we're actually getting more solar out of our solar panels now. Next slide. Pipeline replacement, not the most exciting chart you've ever seen. That's pipe going in the ground. We do a lot of that. But we can't let pipe wear out. And we have to stay on top of it. This is a really important step with our CIP and our finance team. How much money does our finance team have to set aside to replace all of our assets as they wear out? That is really, it's really an intricate process. And the development of our asset management team and their sophistication to be able to evaluate and predict when we're going to need investment in certain things is really complicated, and we've really made great strides. So, I don't know, 5,000 linear feet, 6,000 linear feet in Mission Grove and Woodcrest, we're just knocking off these projects, and our outreach team has done a great job. So when we go into neighborhoods to do this work, people expect it, they understand it, they deal with it. We really don't get any complaints as we're working through all these neighborhoods. So good team effort there. Next slide. Our machine shop board's toured this. This is staff saying parts are expensive, and in the pandemic, we figured out that it's not, you could pay all you want and you still can't get some parts. So our team started figuring out how to make parts. So we fabricate some of our own parts, and that's been a great help. And we continue to grow that shop, and we do it very economically, and it's a very busy shop. And that was in-house initiated. That was our team just saying, we could build these things instead of waiting forever to get them. Why don't we just start building them? So we did that. Next slide. We've talked a lot about making water accessible to people that don't necessarily have water lines in the street. So this is our effort. The Gavilan Hills Water Filling Station, people can pull up to this and buy water and fill tanks out of this. So people that, are kind of out off of the grid now have a legal opportunity to buy water from us, and they have a credit card access and swipe it, and they can fill their tanks, and now they have a way to get water. And I think if we, have a really long drought again, there's going to be some people that have individual wells out in that area. There's not extensive groundwater, and they're likely going to run into problems. And now they have an option to find water and get water, rather than calling us in a panic saying, hey, I'd like to turn on water at my house. Can I do that? And, we give them the unfortunate answer, well, there's not a pipeline within a mile of your house. You can't, there is no water out there. So now this gives them an option to legally acquire water. And it actually, the real benefit to Western is it prevents theft and prevents people from illegally connecting to fire hydrants, which potentially could backflow into our system and contaminate our system. So we want to protect that system. Next slide. Development services, the development world has been cranking 31 development projects, 337 new meters, new sewer connections, 24,000 linear feet of pipe. It's going full tilt, and our team's doing a great job of working with those developers. Next slide.
Hold on, back
Ooh, back up.
Can you go ahead and, or at least somebody give a little snapshot of how we have 337 new water meters, but not 337 sewer connections? Can we just kind of touch that
Sure,
real quick?
Well,
Just-
the easier answer is not all water customers are sewer customers also.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily become our sewer customers.
Right, I just want to make sure that the public doesn't get the wrong message, like, we're giving them water, but we're not
They're on
really
their
caring
own for
about their sewer, so.
No,
Okay.
we're pretty adamant that you have a sewer connection and it goes to a sewage treatment plant.
Right, okay.
Next slide. This is a big step that, we put on our strategic priorities, leak notification pilot program. That doesn't seem like a big thing, but that is a big thing. So this is that whole effort of putting smart meters in and linking that to data and being able to contact our customers. And so we finally have the capability to do that. We've been working on this for years, and it's taken a huge effort. And we actually have a pilot program where we sent out a request to our retail customers and said, hey, who would like to be part of this pilot program to test it? And we had an overwhelming response. So we got the pilot program going. We're figuring out, what's the right dashboards and what's the right information that users will use. But you can actually, they can go on and they can look at their use every single day. And is it hourly data? And, and now a user can pull that up and say, oh, why do I have use 24 hours a day? I'm not taking a shower 24 hours a day. I shouldn't have use in the middle of the night. What's going on? That's why my bill's so high, because I have a leak. And now we have proof to customers, and they can actually go track it themselves and contact us, but we're being a little more sophisticated than that. We have alerts that contact our own staff and say, hey, this meter seems to be running longer than it's ever run before. Look at the data and see, and reach out and contact the customer. So we can proactively talk to customers and head off big bills, and we've been doing that. Low-income assistance program, we used to not even be able to give away all the money that we're trying to, so we fixed that problem. A very sophisticated program. Cybersecurity, we have a closed session plan for the board. I just had a meeting last week in-house talking about physical security and cybersecurity. Very important to us. Bad people are trying to get into our system constantly. It's surprising how many attacks we get all the time. And so, knock on wood, our security systems have been working well, but we're always working hard on updating those because you have to stay in front of the bad guys. Done a lot of visual facility, audio and visual upgrades. The boardroom improved the equipment you can't see because it was all out of date. We were literally buying things on eBay to keep it up and running. We fixed that. And launched our water use portal, which I was already talking about. Next slide. All right, resource management. So the base, we've been doing a lot of work with the base on PFAS, identifying sources of PFAS. The board just approved a design contract to start fixing some of this stuff, so we need the designs to fix it. We've identified hotspots at the base through our efforts of tracking it. We've gotten money through federal grants to start fixing it, so we think we're really well positioned on PFAS and the base. Next slide. Calco intake switchgear, this was really old 60s era electrical facilities that we had to upgrade. It doesn't create new water supply, but it sure makes it easier to operate your system. So we updated that. The challenge that we found out that the footprint that we were building on and utilizing, we didn't have the easements for. So hard and expensive to replace all that equipment, harder to get the easement straightened out. And our engineering team did a fabulous job making us all legal and getting all those easements. So it was really good to get that one accomplished. Next slide. Sure.
Quick question. So can you translate a little bit the second bullet point, modernized electrical service system to step down voltage?
I could, but I'll butcher it. Derek, do you want to try that? Explaining the 4160 to 480 volts. Can you?
Sorry, pop quiz.
Pop quiz on the electrical side of why did it looks like a downgrade, but it's,
Okay, so the
it's a
motor
change.
control, the motor control center essentially, what you're doing is when you're doing long haul transfer of electricity, you want to keep it at high voltage so you don't have a lot of losses when it's carrying through the wires. So Southern California Edison, they're bringing it at really high voltages when you look up overhead. That's not what you want locally. When you plug it in, you don't want to get anywhere near something of that high voltage. So we bring it down to lower voltages so that we can use it. So in this case, we're bringing it from the 4160 volts to the 480 volts. So that transfer is basically just changing it to a different voltage, and that makes it more usable. And our folks, still 480, that's not something you personally would want to plug something into, but we have trained electricians who will go there and they'll basically wear suits and protect themselves and all that to work on it. But the 4160, we leave that completely to the Southern California people, Southern California Edison people, so that they know what they're doing and they don't hurt anyone.
Thank you, Derek.
Okay?
So the modernizing part is just like upgrading this, it was upgrading the system or?
Right, so basically the old wires and everything like that is just, when you have something built in the 1960s, we just simply don't do that anymore. Just imagine like, I don't know, Thomas Edison working on his bench. That's the kind of stuff that's out there. They have like a thing that looks like this, and we don't do that anymore. So, or that's not true. They do something like that, but not with the brown, like the brown coated wires that you've seen in the old films. So we modernized it and brought it up to today's standards. So it's safe and we can work with it.
Great, thank you.
Is it good?
Just decrepit.
So you've heard about this, but we didn't really share this with all hands, with the employees before. So, we thought I'm really impressed with our staff that we've found 8,700 acre feet of water that's been put in our name. These agreements sometimes take decades, and in 1 year, we've tried to spend $20 million. We're not there yet. We're going to work hard still, but we've made a lot of progress. Next slide. Financial. So credit ratings were reaffirmed, which is great news. Actually, even better than that, we have a positive outlook, Kevin. I always think I have a positive outlook, but apparently when S&P says that, that really means something. It doesn't mean anything when I say it, but as long as we don't trip up, likely in a year or two, will be upgraded to AAA by them also. So that's really good news. Doesn't sound that fantastic, but it really is good news. You've heard about our budget and the budgeting software. So Daisy did a remarkable job of getting a budget through the board and uploading software. So that was great. Mike Mauser and Veronica worked enormously on our business system. That was all happening at the exact same time as the budget. So how do you implement a whole new business software system while you're doing all this? Because people literally have to be almost put in a trailer to work on just programming that system while we're still trying to do all the other things that we have to do. We've advanced the combined DeSalter enterprise. So that's that tying Chino Basin to our retail customers. And the financial side of that is, what do you charge for the water, and how do you make that all work, and how do you predict how much water is going to our customers as opposed to going to Norco and Corona and Harupa and Rubidoux. And that's still a work in progress. Asset lifecycle management has made great advances. And then we've already talked a little bit about RCRA and saving money and operational efficiencies, but that's a financial issue, a big financial issue and an operational issue. Next slide. Grants, you just got more great news about grants. You ask a PhD for a graphic and you get these really creative graphics about the number of grants and the cash value in millions of dollars all on the same grant, but on the same chart. But you know, we've been very active applying for grants and very successful. And I know the board's always been super supportive and appreciative, and I'm just appreciative of how hard our staff works with our consultants to find these grants and putting in the really good applications so we win the grants. Next slide. Elite workforce. As you know, top workforce again in 2023. Thing I'm really proud of is we're the top public entity in the survey, which is great. Sometimes the public sector people don't toot their own horn and aren't as proud of their own workplace, and I'm really happy that our staff said, we love this place. So that's great news for us, and it's great for recruiting. You'd be surprised how many people sit in my office in their interview and talk about they're aware that we're a top workplace. It's really good. Next slide. The flare. So yeah, why is this in elite workforce? Well, you heard about this in the engineering committee, and this is Tony and his team saying, hey, we can go buy a flare, we're gonna have a big wait, or we can put our ingenuity to work and we can rebuild a flare. And oh, by the way, we'll take the old flare and we'll salvage that so it's ready as a backup. So we saved a huge amount of money, and the team learned how to make a flare and learned all about it. And now we have that expertise in-house, and we actually have a backup. A lot of people don't know what a flare is, but there's gas that has to be burned before it goes off into the atmosphere. And when you don't have that little Olympic torch going, you have to stop your treatment plant. So it's a very important device, and great resolution from the team. And this was the team's idea to do this. That's why it's in elite workforce, because this was their idea to take that on. And remember, when they take on these things like building the Murrieta Water Quality Enhancement Project and this, they still have all their other normal duties that they are very busy with. And so they figure out how to find the time to do both things. Next slide. Confined space, we had a great presentation on this in front of the board, but we just went to go and team up with some of our fellow agencies and learn more. Kind of turned out that we actually had a lot of expertise and kind of got pushed into a leadership role there. I've heard from one director and one staff member that want to be in the little basket and drag through all the pipes next time we do this. So I've noted that. I'm not sure our insurance carrier will allow that, but we'll see what happens.
Can we make that happen down in Murrieta and scrub the inside of the pipes at the
Hey,
same
little
time?
brushes, brushes to go. Got to be really small.
Yeah.
Next slide. We haven't lost sight of growing our industry. Candy and Bianca are really active in trying to get us in front of kids. So, you know, trying to get in front of high school kids, younger kids. We have fifth graders that come out and take tours of wastewater treatment plants. We go to the Riverside Job Fair at the Galleria. We get 10 or 20 of our staff members that want to get out there and talk about what a great career this is. So really important to us. We continue to look for ways to grow that. It's not big enough, but it's really hard to do. And we don't have the staff to make this a full-time job, but I think we're doing really well. Career videos has really been a nice tool to use, and we'll use a lot more of those. I think those are going to be really effective. So, you know, talking to people one by one, one-on-one's not very effective, but showing videos to a whole class and posting them on our website, I think is the future. Next slide. And awards, we've been really fortunate. Awards, the Low Bounty Safety Award, Top Workplace, awards in financial reporting. IT practices is really important. We want to make sure we're doing the latest and greatest things that, you know how information technology changes constantly. Staying on top of that is a challenge. Capio, we got an award for our outreach on the Northwell water quality. The last two, I think, are really important. Maintenance reliability technician certification. So we've been sending people to certifications. So Don and Mark and Casey all got certifications from the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals. And then the last one, staff has completed 200 courses at the American Water College online. And this is about getting their certifications and doing other things. So really proud of the staff of stepping up. And we give them the opportunity to do these things. We don't necessarily tell them they have to. And they're choosing to do it because they recognize that, we're not that big of agency. And if you want to move up in this agency, it's a very competitive environment. And employees are really preparing themselves for that next level here. And that's all part of it. Next slide. That's it. Sorry, that was a lot. That was a lot.
Well,
Happy to answer questions.
I have one to start with. What do you and the rest of the team do in your spare time?
Yeah. Yeah, Tim has that handled. Tim has told lots of employees that you have Saturday and Sunday to finish all your extra work, which I think that is our spare time on Saturday and Sunday. No, it's a really good question, and it's a struggle as the general manager because, quite frankly, we have a lot of people that would work every Saturday and Sunday, and we really like to have a good work-life balance. And so the leadership team has to model that, and I think we do a good job of modeling that. We talk about outside activities that we're doing. We kind of celebrate outside activities. We did a Spartan challenge and asked the employees to join us and have some fun. So it's really important. It actually takes a hard effort to get employees to let go. And, I sometimes, I have busy days in meetings, and so I do a lot of emails at night, and I try and be really clear with people that because I sent you an email at 8 o'clock at night doesn't mean you read it and respond at 8 o'clock at night. That's just the time I can do it. Don't give up your family life and, doing homework with your kids and doing your hobbies with your friends. So work-life balance is really hard, but it's an important tenet at Western, and it's an important part of our recruiting at Western. And we want to make sure people feel comfortable in utilizing their free time because you spend a lot of time with us, and we want you happy when you get here. So use that free time to make yourself happy.
It just,
Not that they're not happy at Western. They're very happy at Western, but
No, they-
you have to recharge.
they are, and that's a good thing, but it is such a dedicated team of people from, at every level. When there's a problem or something that they see that can be done better, they make that happen. And that flows from our executive management team. So congratulations and thanks to every one of you.
Go ahead.
So, just a couple of comments. One, everybody should be really proud because this is, while Craig is packaging this up and putting it in a PowerPoint, and everybody did this. This took the team to accomplish this stuff. So huge, huge deal. Years ago, and I don't know when we stopped this, and I will make a reference to one of our executive team up here, our CFO, who used to put on a rubber ducky float and get into a dunk tank. We used to have an employee appreciation thing. Oh, I'm sure we can find pictures. I'm sure somebody has pictures. We used to do a big employee appreciation day. And so I would like to entertain the fact of perhaps bringing that back at some point in time, whether it be a picnic to invite families or I'd love to bring the rubber ducky out of storage, to really show we value the time, effort, and energy that you put in, because we know that there are a lot of people that extend past a 40-hour week. We know that.
And that's only the part-timers.
And exactly. So I'd like to just kind of throw that to my colleagues to say this used to be an event that we did, and it was hugely attended. I don't know if that's going to give heartburn to Craig or not, but I think it's worth a discussion of how we can do this, because I think it's really important that we acknowledge everyone, show our appreciation for their dedication to us by us giving back to them, and whatever form we can do that in. So I just kind of want to throw that out there for a little conversation at some point. And then the other thing I would say too is, you guys have done a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of things to try to generate the workforce. This industry is having a hard time bringing people in to get excited about it, to look past all of technology, the IT world, games, phones, all these things, right? But what we do is critical to life. You can't survive without the water. You definitely do not want to survive without the sewer. And so I would tell you that there is another opportunity out there, and I know this is another path of creation, a little bit of work, but there might be a way to be able to do it. There are some very high achievers young out there that are part of Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And they want to achieve patches, and they want to get exposed to different things. And you also have Eagle Scouts that are doing projects, so there might be some encouragement there that we could interface and partner. But on the other flip side of it, the Girl Scouts do what they call a Gold Award, which is equivalent to an Eagle Scout. And it's a huge deal for these individuals and these kids that are really doing those things. And these typically are very high achieving children. And they're looking to do stuff like this. So I just throw that as an opportunity of discussion if you want to hit a layer of something that we may not have thought of or participate in, because I know that there's several councils out here that would jump at an opportunity to do more patches and figure out how they can integrate that into their program. So you would not stand alone in that arena, just saying. So, and I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you for everything that you do, the time that you spend away from your families, and you give back to everybody here.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Craig.
All right. Thank you for your attention.
Is there more to the general manager's report?
No, the general manager was worn out his welcome. I'm done.
No, you have not worn out your welcome.
Oh, wait, no.
RCRA update, do you want a RCRA fire update? Do you
Oh, it was all good news, Director Rizvi.
it's
but-
okay,
no,
I'll just give it-
I'll do
go
it.
ahead.
So Director Rizvi is highlighting, we did have an electrical fire at RCRA last week. Time flies.
July 24th.
Yeah.
It was July, 2 weeks back, yes.
In the chemical building, the staff out there saw smoke coming out of the building, called 911. Fire came to the scene, put out the fire. No one was hurt. we're back to President Gardner's point is talk about rallying. Obviously, we lost chemicals to the plant. We lost SCADA to parts of the plant. We lost power to parts of the plant. And our team went out there and wired up temporary facilities, and the plant was fully operational the next morning. So we stopped discharging. We were able to hold sewage overnight and actually work with our partners. Corona held sewage and didn't send it to RCRA, which was, part of our relationships we have with Corona. They're great to work with. But our team was out there all night long and then got it running, and then we had to, rebuild the SCADA system so you could control the temporary facilities until we can rebuild the permanent facilities. So they went out and, wired up all the SCADA controls so that they can actually operate it remotely again, so we don't have to have people out there 24/7 watching it to make sure nothing goes wrong. So insurance has been contacted. We actually have, they're investigating the cause. We certainly want to know the cause so we don't put it back the same way and have it happen again. So we're waiting to hear that. I think we've also hired our own engineering firm to make sure that the building itself didn't sustain damage that makes it weak. So we'll do our own evaluation on top of the insurance company's evaluation. But yeah, it was our emergency response was outstanding. Got it back. Reported everything that we have to report to the regional board, and I think we're in good shape again. We aren't even far enough to know how long it's going to take to get everything replaced, but
Yes.
we're fully up and operating.
Perfect. I just wanted to thank staff for their response. It has been amazing. We're getting updates every day, and I just would like to, kudos to them for having that, having a fire and getting back up again the next morning was just amazing. And another thing that to add to this, that thank you, Craig, for your leadership. All right.
Okay, we will move on then to directors' reports and requests, starting with SAPA. SAPA met yesterday. We received two informational reports. One was the report from the consultant on the cloud seeding project on the first year. There are data in there about how many storms were seeded, how many of the seeding devices were operated in each storm, and how many hours. There is a validation study, which is not done yet, which tries to quantify how much additional water may have been dropped in the target areas as a result of the cloud seeding effort. So that will come. That is available on the SAPA website for anybody who wants to see it. One of the things that I found really interesting about it is there's some concern in some people's minds about, well, you're putting silver iodide in the atmosphere. Is that bad in some way? And if you look at the math, the number of hours, the pounds of material that were dispensed, it's fractions, very small fractions of a pound per hour across the entire target area. And if you divide that by square miles, it becomes, it's just almost infinitesimal. So hopefully that will educate some people and put their minds at rest a bit. The other presentation was on enhancements to the watershed-wide budget decision support tool project update. Basically, that is, I mentioned it previously, it is a study of the watershed to help identify, using remote sensing, what it is that's on the ground. It can help identify what's arundo and what's something else. It can identify what's lawn and what's not. It can overlay with other data to narrow things down to an individual property. And that it's in the works. It's something that for any water agency, retail water agency that is contemplating possibly going to budget-based rates. It's a good way to help identify what should a budget for a property be. For entities like Western, where we've been on budget-based rates for a while, the new data with better information may enable us to either verify that we're where we are, where we should be, or make appropriate changes up or down on budgets. So that will become available in bits and pieces over the next couple of years. So interesting study, though. And then the PA 24 committee, which oversees the brine line, looked at its reserves. There are a variety of reserves, and there's a reserve policy, how much should be in each one. Most of them are where they should be, and they moved a little bit of money from one to another, but everything looks pretty good there. And that was SAPA. Met.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. So I attended my first Employee Appreciation Day that Metropolitan brought back, and my understanding, the number was there were over 1,500 people there. So it was quite an event. It was quite entertaining for me. It was 102 out there at Whittier Narrows Park, and so it was a little warm. But that regional park, who knew? It's right there off of the freeway, and I had no idea it was there and how large it actually is. So kudos to Metropolitan staff for putting on such a huge event and inviting all the families and just getting to see that organization and all the people that are involved with that. So kind of an eye-opener for me. And then if you had not heard, you know, one of the things that I just want to, especially after we awarded the contract today to look at rates and looking at all of the studies and everything that we're going to be doing, the San Diego County Water Authority just ended up passing their budget and just did a huge double-digit increase because they had not kept up with their costs for service and a variety of different things. And they met with some very interesting comments and some of the member agency participation and things down there. So I just, you know, I just say this to bring this to your attention. You know, there is a risk of not doing an appropriate cost adjustment. So as we go forward and look at this, we're going to be very thoughtful in how we take a look at things and how we prepare for what we need to do to take sure and make sure that we're fiscally sound. And then the other thing, Craig gave, you know, an update on some of the meetings and things, so those will continue to progress over the month. This month's meeting is going to be delayed by a week, so I won't be going to that next week because all of the tax rolls come in from the assessor's office for the adjustments to what the voting percentages are, and so that will come out. So our percentage, I will make a guess it's going to increase. Others may decrease, but Inland Empire is definitely going to increase. So our voting share will continue to progress upward, and we'll have more weighted vote as time goes on and as we continue to see development progress out here. And then the other thing that's also going to be a very critical vote to make sure that we hold to our commitment on the budget for Metropolitan is the ad valorem taxes will be a vote. And we committed back at the adoption of the budget to bring in a certain percentage. So we need to make sure that everybody that committed to that at that point in time is going to stick with that commitment and that they don't fluctuate anything because it'll tank Met's budget completely with changing of that percentage and trying to not be supportive of what we agreed to and what we know we have to do for controlling and bringing in more fixed revenue for increased cost. And making sure that we're doing an appropriate collection for state water projects, which is what hasn't happened in a number of cycles. So I just bring that to your attention because I'm very aware and still having continued discussions to make sure that people are going to hold true to their commitments. So I will be making sure that I have a list. So as I do not want to open and crack the budget again because that will just send us in a tailspin as well. So very sensitive to that. We'll continue to advocate and hold to our commitment. So, and that is about all I have for Metropolitan.
Okay. Chino Basin Water Master meets in another couple of weeks. Chino to Salter Authority.
Yes, it was a very short meeting, basically one action item, which had to do with, we had, in January of '24, Visual Edge IT was hired to conduct a cybersecurity assessment and evaluation. And during the assessment, it was found that hardware upgrades were necessary to meet modern network standards and improve security. So we voted on the professional services agreement and to authorize the general manager to finalize the agreement. And we had a couple of reports. One was an update on the South Archibald plume and the Chino Airport plume. And then there was a quarterly operations report. And that was pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. RCRA.
We will meet in September.
Okay, WRCOG.
Yes, WRCOG. We had a couple of things that were going on there, and one of them was an activities update from both Eastern and Western. Craig was there along with Joe Moab from Eastern Municipal Water District to give a big presentation on all the activities and all the things that have been going on in our world to let all of the cities know. And there were a fair amount of questions and involvement and asks of what was going on and what was presented. So I was really excited to see my colleagues engaged at the level that they were engaged in. So it's all good, and we're always here to support them in their efforts and to get their support in all of our efforts and what we're trying to do. You know, it's a great relationship that we have with all of those participants. So I appreciate Craig going out there and giving a wonderful presentation. It was well received, and I got several comments after the meeting as well. So thank you for that. And then it's also not that Craig, you know, on his spare 5 minutes that he has during the day once a month, he now gets to sit as the vice chair of the TAC with my position, and then he will be chair next year if the vote goes and succession goes the way that it's supposed to. So just to let you guys know, that's another thing added to his calendar. So I'm sure he's looking forward to it. Guess what? You get to step up just like I do. Okay. So that is about, I think that's all that I have for WRCOG.
Okay, Sarah.
Next week.
Aqua Region 9.
Aqua Region 9. So as a reminder, we have a program that's going to be for Region 9. If I think folks have signed up for that to attend, it's going to be out at Wilson Creek to talk about workforce development and talk about the challenges within the organization and everything that we've got. So we've had a huge roster sign up for that, and we've got a lot of participants, so really looking forward to that. Fall conference is coming up, so make sure that you get that on calendar and participate in fall conference. That'll be down in the desert, so we look forward to seeing you folks out there and joining us for a fall conference program, and I will bring more details next month as those programs come to light and are developed, and you can be well informed on those. Other than that, I think that's all I have for Aqua.
Okay. Director's comments. Start with you, Laura.
Whoops. Just a couple. I did attend the BBK PFAS workshop. Thank you, Jeff, for letting us know about that. Those are going to be monthly for, I think it's 5 more months. It was, for me at least, very understandable, just presented really well. I think it was 30 minutes, 30-ish minutes, so it wasn't a huge amount of time. I didn't have time to start rolling back my eyes than to my head. So I just really appreciate it. Thank you for letting us know, and I plan to attend as many of those as I can. I know that's going to be a hot topic. It already is, but just to mention that I attended National Night Out last evening it was in Harupa Valley this year. The Eastville, Harupa Valley, and Norco share a National Night Out every year, and it rotates from city to city. So this year was Harupa Valley's turn, and it looked like a good turnout. Boy, the sheriff was majorly out there. I think Chad Bianco even stopped by for a bit. So I saw Assemblymember Cervantes, Senator Roth had a booth. I didn't see him, but I also didn't get there right when it started because it was hot. So I thought, I'll go a little bit later. But I was able to say hello to some people I hadn't seen in a while. So it was a nice evening. Lots of families, and Harupa schools start today. So I thought, well, what a cool way for kids to have their, last evening of summer before they go back to school today. So at least in Harupa. And I just wanted to say thank you to our team, to our executive team. In listening to that presentation of all the accomplishments, I mean, it really does take a team. And I remember when I first got on the board, which is almost 3 years ago this month, and I was just so impressed by everything I saw, the people that I met, everything, the way you all operated, the smiles on people's faces. That has not changed. In fact, if anything, it has increased. And I forget who or where I was ever asked the question about, I think it was actually in another organization. Are the employees happy? And I always would think, well, they don't work directly for me as a board member, but I certainly can tell from chatter and engaging and smiles and the end of the year event that we have at March Museum. It's so evident that not only is our staff so capable, but there is a culture of leadership and a culture of innovation that I just don't think, especially government entities, have like that. We tend to get in our little box in the government, and I feel like here, we do. We have all the requirements and mandates and all those kinds of things, but to be able to have, we're just going to build a flare. It's like, it just blows me away. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. I was having trouble trying to articulate, what I wanted to say. And recently in the news, and I won't go into what it was referring to, but they talk about a honeymoon period. And I feel like I'm still 3 years later, I'm still in the honeymoon period. Everything still looks as good, if not better, than it looked 3 years ago for me. So thank you to all of you. I'm just so proud to be able to say that I serve for this organization. It's really awesome. So thanks.
Director Rizvi.
All righty. I have a couple of things. So we attended, Director Denstead and I attended the Regional Water Alliance meeting along with our team. Really got to know about the options and a very good way to answer why we can't do desalination. So I think, the staff and team is doing a great job finding solution for us on a regional basis. So we look forward to looking at other options. I attended the Southern California Water Alliance quarterly lunch, which was leading the way to decarbonize California. It was the Water and Energy Nexus. This was my first event for such a topic, and it was very interesting. They had a tour for a hydrogen house. This is the first house in, I think, in the U.S., which is all it's all on renewables. All the electricity is on renewable energy. So that's a very interesting tour. So I did that. I attended Harupa Valley and East Vale Chambers Installation Awards. And then last week, Director Denstead and I attended the CASA conference. Monterey is always a beautiful place to visit. And when we have 100 degrees weather, it was in the 70s over there, so it was beautiful. I always like these conferences, but the best part, there was a women's networking event. It was usually I've attended those, but it was very different. They had small groups of women, and from there, all of that one topic came about is so many women don't know each other, and this is the first time they get to know each other. And I think our action item from that meeting was, so whenever we see each other throughout the conference, say hi and sit with them. So it was a very interesting way to get to know fellow board members, different what is different agencies are doing, what's going on. So I loved that. There was a PFAS session which I attended. That is something that's going to be discussed really heavily at CASA, so I look forward to going back and doing that. And last night, I attended the National Night Out event at City of Corona. I love that event. I saw Assembly Member Cervantes there as well. And Supervisor Spiegel was there, and I love that event. Families and kids, it's just a good event, and Corona Police always does a great job, so that's about it.
Okay, Director Denstead.
Thank you. I also attended the CASA conference, and I didn't get to go to the women's networking thing because I was whisked off on a bus to go and see the Monterey One Water Tour, which was really interesting, and their partnerships that they've got next door with, Michael, what was the next door? The landfill, right? But they had a name, and I can't. Anyway, there was a partnership there in how they were processing everything. So it was really interesting to see just the collaboration and the differences, and how everybody is doing their recycled water plants, and the different treatments that everybody engages in. There's probably hundreds of ways that engineers could come up with various different things. So it's just kind of interesting to do comparison across the board and check the boxes off and say, wow, why did you use this treatment versus this one? Why did you go this direction instead of this direction? So just kind of an interesting discussion there, and get to see all of that. And then they had an awesome keynote speaker that talked about leadership, and talked about her sessions and managing agencies and looking for influencing decisions and policies and a variety of different things. And her name was Mabel Miguel, and she was from North Carolina, right? North Carolina from
University of North Carolina.
Yeah, so, and she was just amazing. She was probably one of the most entertaining speakers I've seen in a very, very long time. And how she approached things, and the engagement level that they did, and the interaction, and things that you can put up, it changes people's involvement, their engagement, their participation in the activities, and their attention when you're actually entering questions and you're actually responding to surveys that they have you put up, and then they reveal all of this during live time. So you're watching everybody come forward with all their words, their suggestions, their variety of different things. And it was so well attended. In fact, this CASA conference had the most attendees ever in CASA's history of participating. I think there were 370 participants that were at CASA, which was huge for a CASA conference. It usually is not that big of participation. So really fortunate to go there. And with Director Risby talking about how it was in the 70s, I'm sorry, it was cold. It was cold and I didn't take enough sweaters. And I really wished I would have packed my UGG boots because, you know, having a 40-degree temperature swing was a little much. So just saying. And then I'm going to give a shout out too, because I also was fortunate enough to meet our newest family member in the Western family at dinner for one of the nights, little Sir Jacob. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. So I just appreciate that. And then the other couple of things I wanted to talk about are keep us posted, Craig, on the hearing and what's going on in Sacramento, because we're all sitting at the edge of our seats waiting to see what's going to happen and getting that update to find out where we sit with SB 366. So we're super excited to, you know, keep marching this to the finish line. We're going to still go and encouraging people to reach out to representatives. If you know people sitting on that committee up there that are listening to that, make some phone calls. And we encouraged folks at WRCOG as well to make those phone calls and reach out to folks if they are familiar with and have relationships with them. And then wanted to bring attention to our involvement and collaboration with one of our cities. So Marietta, Kim Summers, has announced that she is retiring and they will be changing leadership down there and doing some things. And I believe they did an appointment last night for an interim. So I did not find out the results of that. I went to National Night Out with the city of Marietta, and I also found out that Tony Conrad, the chief of police down there, has also announced his retirement. And so I've known Tony for a very long time. In fact, his wife is a teacher at the Marietta Elementary School, and my daughter was in her class. So I've known Tony for a long time. So I wish him well after 30-plus years in law enforcement, well-earned retirement. And then for those of you that may have not heard, there were a number of fires that were down in the Marietta area this last weekend and last week. I won't go into details, but there is a tip line that has been set up. So I would tell you, and I would reach out to the public and say, anybody that's listening to this meeting, if you see something, say something. So if there is something that you are aware of and need to make a phone call, go to Marietta's city's website. They do have a tip line that has now been placed on that. So these are critical times. We're in very hot, dry conditions. And we hope everybody is using the necessary precautions to keep safe and keep your families safe and your surroundings safe down there and not do anything to assist with wildfires. So with that, that will conclude my comments
Okay,
for the day. Thank you.
thank you. I don't have anything to report. So any requests for future agenda items?
Yes,
Yes?
I have an ask. Has everybody got their pencils ready to go? So and this perhaps is my not being 100% dialed in because I'm not going to Communications and Government Affairs Committee because I'm up at Metropolitan on that day and I'm sitting up in LA. But I wanted to have a discussion or at least find out what we're doing to talk about any changes that are coming out for 2025 and per capita changes and how we're going to communicate that out to our customers, to the public at large, what we're doing.
Population changes or water use changes?
Water use changes. So, and how we're going to communicate that moving forward and what that means for the customers that we serve, our member agencies. Is it going to change anything? Are we expecting a drastic swing? I mean, just kind of what we're doing to prep for those things coming out and how we're going to talk about them. So that's that's my ask. And that's in whatever timing we need to look at, but hopefully not the day before it's going to be scheduled to start. So,
Day after.
right? Exactly. So, and that's my ask.
Anyone else? If not, we have a closed session today, so we will be adjourning to the closed session. Mr. Newfield, would you like to make an introduction to the closed session?
Yes, today we'll be going into closed session for two items. The first is conference with labor negotiator, and the second is completing the public employee performance evaluation of the general manager.
Okay, do we anticipate reportable action for anybody who might want to hang around?
It's unlikely that we would have reportable action today.
Okay. So hang around if you want to, otherwise, read the minutes. We will adjourn to closed session. Thank you all very much. Let's try to be there at 11:15, please.
We're reporting out of closed session.
Okay, we are returned from closed session. Counsel, can you report out for us?
Yes, there was no reportable action in closed session. There was discussion about a modification to the general manager's employment agreement with the district to provide for a 20% merit bonus and a 1.5% merit salary increase based on the general manager's performance for this last fiscal year. And those increases would work off of his current salary. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and just for clarification, the bonus portion is a one-time action.
That is correct. The bonus is a one-time payment.
Okay. Good enough? I have a motion and a second. Tammy, when the system is ready, if you would do a roll call vote, please.
Could I offer a friendly amendment to the motion?
Sure.
Certainly.
And to authorize the board president to sign the written amendment on behalf of the district?
I will accept your friendly suggestion of an amendment and amend my motion to include that, council.
And I'll
Thank you.
second.
Thanks, guys. Are we ready for a vote?
We are.
Okay. Director Dennstedt,
Aye.
Director Roten,
Aye.
Director Rizvi.
Aye.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0.
Okay. And with that, there being no further business,
We need to pull item 10.
We're not going to do item.
Yeah.
We don't have to do item 10.
oh, yes. So, item 10 is removed from the agenda.
Thank you.
Our next meeting is August the 21st at 9:30, and with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you all.
Recording stopped.